So using coal as a resource, burning it, is what they have to do to generate heat. It reduces or releases large quantities of carbon dioxide, which is a main greenhouse gas. It has the greatest quantity of carbon dioxide per unit of heat out of all the fossil fuels. Mercury is released during combustion, and that's how you can get mercury buildup in streams and lakes, because it's released out of this out of coal, and then either settles in the land and then runs it off into lower lying areas, and then it gets into the food chain. So that's why you get a concern with eating fish and getting a mercury poisoning. Sulfur oxides and nitrogen oxides are released during burning coal. Both react with water to form an air pollutant known as acid deposition or acid rain. And acid deposition in the air then precipitates as acid rain. And normal rain has a pH of 5.6, where acid rain can get down to 2.1, and that can be a huge concern with plants and plant growth, and we'll do a lab later to see how plants grow in different pHs. So some coal technologies that have been developed: scrubbers, which is a big thing. This removes sulfur from the coal after combustion, sulfur oxides from the power plant exhaust. It removes up to 98% of the sulfur oxides and 99% of particulate matter, which is just basically small particles in the air like dust and ash of things being burnt. But they are very expensive. Scrubbers can cost 10 to 15% of the construction cost of an entire coal plant. Very expensive. Fluidized bedded combustion, which mixes crushed coal with particles of limestone in a strong air current during combustion to remove sulfur oxides. So this is doing something similar to scrubbers. Takes place at lower temperatures than regular coal burning, and releases fewer nitrogen oxides than the scrubbers. So I'm going to show a video how you make electricity from coal, or actually just make sure to watch that. It should be posted on Edmodo. Now on to oil. This is the world's main energy source. You can see here with this diagram some of the products that are produced from petrochemicals or from oil. You have petroleum, or crude oil is made of hydrocarbon compounds, and some of those products here are plastics, paints, fertilizers, pesticides, medicine, and other synthetic fibers. So here you can see natural gas or petroleum can make a lot of plastic, different types of medicines, detergents, and then petroleum or coal can make you got paint, sunglasses, probably the lenses, and the plastic and the glasses, perfumes, another one, insecticides. So those are some products made from petrochemicals such as petroleum. So if we look at the U.S. petroleum use, you can look here red. This is the product supply. So kind of looking at our demand or supply of petroleum or oil. You can look at our domestic supply. It's pretty much stayed the same, increased for a little bit and decreased. It's actually increased again recently. See, this only goes up to about like 2003. And then looking at our net imports. What can you tell me about our net imports? Yeah, imports, they are just continuing to increase. And this is in millions of barrels per day. So here we are, natural gas, or also called nat gas, made of smaller hydrocarbon compounds like methane, ethane, propane, which you might use for a grill, or butane. The natural gas can be used for generation of electricity, commercial heating and cooling, cogeneration, which generating electricity, and the steam to heat water. So it's generating electricity and heat basically. And then transportation. In transportation with natural gas, it emits 80 to 90% fewer hydrocarbons, 90% less carbon monoxide, which is a product of incomplete combustion, which you might have heard to stay away from or can be dangerous if you have generators near your house, if you're generating electricity during a power outage. Also 90% fewer toxic emissions and almost no soot, which is this particulate matter that's released from the combustion of fossil fuels. And that means that also natural gas burns very clean. If we jump back to oil and we look at different oil deposits found around the world, you can see where's the largest. Yep, you can see right here in the Middle East. Green is proven reserves, and yellow is the undiscovered estimates where there might be. After the Middle East, where do you see the next largest? If you look over here in Canada, Canada has a lot of tar sands, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and that is removing oil from shale and sand areas. It requires a lot of energy, and it's very messy process, but it does have a lot of oil. And then also you have here in South America, Venezuela, and the northern countries here have a lot of oil production. Some in Africa, some in Russia. But the main deposits, Persian Gulf, Venezuela and Mexico, Russia and Libya. Since 1980s, the success rate of searching for new oil, this should be oil fields, has declined. It is hypothesized that large oil deposits exist under continental shelves, but it's very difficult to get to. Like the BP oil rig that exploded was on a continental shelf. Deep oil exploration. Oil probably has the shortest life to depletion, meaning that it will deplete the fastest. Here's another diagram which is pretty interesting. Red is consumption and black is production. What can you tell me about consumption versus production? Our consumption has steadily increased where our production has actually decreased because of the quantity. What do you think happens to oil prices having this inverse relationship? Yeah, prices will increase because if you don't have the supply to fill that demand, prices will increase. Looking at some oil issues in the past, first one we're talking about is Exxon Valdez, which a super tanker right here hit the Blythe Reef and spilled 260,000 barrels of crude oil into Prince William Sound, which is an area in Canada along the coast of Alaska, creating now the second largest oil spill. More than 30,000 birds and around 4,000 sea otters died. Killer whales, sea lion populations decreased because of this, and salmon migration was disrupted. A way that they tried to clean it up was this mechanized steam cleaning and rinsing, which you can see down here, which this led to additional deaths or animal kills, especially mollusks that are attached onto the rocks. Exxon Valdez had to pay $1 billion to Alaska, and then a jury awarded $5 billion to fishermen and other Alaskans for punitive damages. Exxon tried to appeal those charges, but the final cost exceeded $10 billion. And because of it, the Oil Pollution Act was enacted. Here you can see some more cleanup. Individual birds here covered in oil. Other spills that have happened, the Persian Gulf spill in 1991, 6 million barrels spilled into the Persian Gulf, and then also the more recent BP oil spill that happened 2 years ago. This one was the largest oil spill in history. 210 million barrels spilled into the Gulf. The cause was a valve problem and caused a pressurized explosion, which killed 11 individuals on the rig. Here you can see right after the oil explosion, and here you have their well that where it exploded and broke off, oil just basically pumping into the Gulf of Mexico, just coming out of this well in large quantities. So other than the three main types, there are some synthetic fuels that can be made also from hydrocarbons. like just synthetic fuels. Tar sands we talked about in Canada. Oil shales, which is this layer of rock strata that is found in a couple places across the United States, and they can do this hydraulic fracturing, which we'll watch in a video, also known as fracturing, which is hydraulic fracking, where they can release oil from this very dense hard rock. Gas hydrates, coal liquefaction, and coal gasification. Those are a couple not really used anymore, but they're listed here in the book. Alright, that finishes it for this chapter, but it's very important that you watch the Energy Now videos. I mean, those really are up-to-date videos, and last year, one of the free response questions on the final exam, if you watched that video, you got a perfect score on that free response question. It was that easy. So it's very important that you watch these and watch these entirely.